Something like that.
Charlie, you forget something. I teach this stuff for a living. I know these stories inside out.
Would it make any difference if I told you that there hasn't been anyone else?
What do you want from me, Charlie?
I don't know. Here, let me sign your book. When I agreed to the separation, I thought, well, maybe she's right. Maybe the whole thing has gone sour. Then I realized I didn't feel like that at all. Here, read it.
Charlie, this is difficult to say, but I'm seeing someone.
Well, that's understandable. I mean, I didn't expect you to twiddle your thumbs for a year.
Well, actually, it's pretty serious.
Serious?
I think so.
Okay, well, do I know him? I mean, what's his name?
Hey, where have you been? Did you just get here?
A few minutes ago.
I don't believe this.
Well, as I told you, Charles, a lot of things have changed around here.
I wanted to tell you before
I guess you were otherwise engaged.
This was a terrible mistake. Let's go. Thank you for the book, Charlie.
Thanks for the book.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, could be worse.
How?
I don't know. Let's think about it.
I mean, what has she seen, this guy?
Well, I hear he keeps his hands off the students.
Before I begin teaching, of course, I like to get to know something about my students. I usually do this by asking a few questions, kind of an informal survey. You could answer by raising your hand. Okay, first question. How many of you have ever committed murder? Don't be shy, just raise your hand if you've ever killed somebody. I guess you guys don't get out much. Okay, next question. How many of you have ever thought about killing someone? You are?
John Steinmetz.
Tell me, John, haven't you ever fantasized about murdering someone? Your older sister or that piano teacher you had in the 3rd grade? Oh, come on, John. How about the guy who sold you that berry?
There have been a few professors I would have liked to kill.
This is good. I put John on the spot now. He wants to put me 6 feet under. That's very good. Okay, here's something for you to look at. These are some of the typical weapons used in the mystery and detective novel. The pearl-handle revolver, a vial of poison, the French garrote. Each one ideal for committing the most dastardly of crimes. Here's a quote. A thriller is a piece of writing whose plot development depends on violence. But here's another quote. A writer is at his most capable and confident when he deals with things which are familiar to him. Now, this leaves us with a little bit of a problem. As no one in this room has ever committed a murder. Most of you say you've never even considered it. Ow. But yet, you all want to write thrillers, which depend for their effectiveness on acts of extreme violence. Now, short of becoming actual murderers, where does this leave us?
Professor Lattimore, your hand!
Ah! Oh. Charlie Lattimore's rule number 1. A mystery writer must be like a magician. Always keep the reader thinking about the inconsequential while taking his mind off the bigger picture. I have to return these to the drama department. Anyway, as this course goes on, we'll learn all the tricks of the trade. so that by the end of this semester, each one of you should be able to construct a fairly decent thriller. But, to give you another quote, plots, MacGuffins, and such are like carpentry. Making a wood cabinet into a work of art is something the carpenter cannot be taught. As writers, you have to get inside the head of each of your characters. In a mystery story, that means not just understanding the victim of the crime, but also the killer. The first assignment of this semester, due in 3 weeks, is simply this: plan a perfect murder. I want to see in 10 pages or less a whodunit in which you are the villain. In order to throw off the police, you should have an airtight alibi, as well as an alternate suspect who can take the blame for your actions. Of course, the poet W.H. Auden claimed there was no such thing as the perfect murder. He said, guilt, man's need to atone, was the traitor within the gates that would always give him away.
But who knows? Maybe the guy was wrong.
Yes.
What about all the homicides that go unsolved each year? Wouldn't Auden consider them perfect murders?
No, just sloppy detective work. Auden's point was that no matter how small, there was always a calling card left behind. It just took a good pair of eyes to find it.
Like yours?
Excuse me?
Weren't you the only one who could see Dr. Ryder's calling card?
Yes. Well, I just got lucky, thank you. I'll see you all next Wednesday.
Professor Lattimore, Robert Miner. I'm a big fan of your work. In fact, you're the main reason that I transferred here to Hempstead.
Well, I hope you enjoy the class.
I will. Murder is sort of a hobby of mine. Oh.
What is all this, anyway?
It's research. See, when I found that you were writing about the Ryder case, I became obsessed with it. It's really one of the most interesting murders of the past 10 years. Don't you agree?
It's not exactly the way I'd put it.
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Well, to tell you the truth, after 3 years, I'm pretty burned out on
But it's related to the course. See, the Ryder case proves that Alden was wrong. I mean, there is such a thing as a perfect murder.
I'm not following you.
Well, the person who killed Mrs. Ryder pulled off the perfect crime.
I take it you don't think her husband did it.
Couldn't have.
Why not?
Well, the murderer duplicated the MO of the cult killers down to the minutest detail. Only the police knew about the pentagrams carved in the victim's heads.
Ryder was chief surgeon at the same hospital where the murder victims died. If you read my book, you'd know that those autopsy reports were stolen from hospital files, proving that Ryder knew about the pentagram.
If he took the files.
I found them at his home.
Maybe somebody planted them there.
I think you're moving into the world of fiction now.
You see, what I wanted to know was, could this be my perfect murder paper?
You mean prove in 3 weeks that my book is totally invalid?
But I have nothing but the greatest respect for your work. I just don't think this case against Ryder adds up.
And if you could confirm your suspicions, you know I'd feel compelled to do something about it. Not a bad way to kickstart a writing career now, is it?
Well, I admit some of those thoughts have crossed my mind, but there's another reason.
Oh?
Something I read between the lines of your book.
What's that?
In spite of all the evidence, you're still not convinced that Ryder did it. Am I right?
Do the assignment your way, Mr. Miner. Just make sure you surprise me, that's all.
Oh, I will, Professor.
Paradise by the Deathboard Light by Linda Jo Jennings. Tubular bondage in the back seat, 55 miles per hour in an unmoving car. Innocence lost on beer-stained vinyl.